I thought that one man was the main reason why it went the usual way, i.e. COELLO Tapia's way, and it's none other than Agustín Tapia. I mean, just going on the raw stats of winners versus unforced errors, which obviously tell us a lot about what went on. 38 winners, 15 unforced errors for the man.
Get maybe the winners right from both sides. So Lebrón with 24 winners and Stupa with 27. That's not the usual balance that you see or differential between a left-sided player and a right-sided player. Normally the left-sided player has way more of a impact offensively and generates a lot more winners than the right-sided player. So I think, to me, this kind of small difference speaks more about Lebrón than it does about Stupa, in the sense that Lebrón was just like really good offensively.
Bordered in particular just led that the pair through his smash. I mean, every single lob that they played to Bordered, he seemed to deliver.
Kind of one of those where, if that's the dynamic that's going on at the moment at the partnership and how he's feeling, then it's really hard to get out of that once you're in kind of that sort of dynamic. So I just wonder, I'm really scared now about Chingalan, to be honest, because I think that these months are key. I think we've spoken about it before, right? There's a significant points gap with COELLO and Tapia. And if, 3 tournaments down, you haven't even reached a final or something like that, then, I mean, the season for the number one is basically over. So really a lot of alarm bells on for Chingalan. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Paddle Pod, your weekly podcast covering professional paddle, presented by Hugo and Gons. We're on to episode 85, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Hugo here today. Hugo, it's great to have you on. How you doing?
I'm very well, thanks, Gons. I'm loving the shirt, the formal fashion, given is it due to the fact that it's the first review of a tournament of the season? Is that it?
Yeah, exactly. You have to dress up for these special occasions.
Nice. Yeah, no, I'm very well. I'm just going to be playing paddle just after recording this. Unfortunately, not with you by my side on the court, given that, it's been a few hectic weeks for you after 2 weekends with 2 stag do's in a row. I'm sure our audience is very happy and happy to hear that, and we'll find it amusing. But yeah, you look actually in decent shape, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, maybe getting both out the way now was actually a good thing in hindsight. I had a lot of fun, and maybe actually having one where your body's a bit used to all the stuff that you're putting inside it actually maybe benefited. Yeah, a lot of fun, but I'm also quite excited to be left alone.
Yeah, I can imagine. You probably don't want to see my face for a few days.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't want to see anyone's face, I think, for a few days, because they'll probably just be trying to hand me a beer or something. And yeah, I'd rather not have one of those just yet.
Hey, well, you were a very well-behaved stag, so that everyone knows. And credit where credit's due. Well played.
No, I appreciate it. You guys didn't make it too difficult. Maybe moving on, we do obviously want to talk about Premier Paddle, and we obviously had the first tournament finally ending, because I mean, for a moment I thought it was never going to end, given the amount of delays. Needless to say, I think it's been quite a rocky start for Premier Paddle and the tour this season. Obviously, the massive delays in Riyadh P1 due to the weather conditions and the fact that the tournament's being played outdoors. But also lingering, I think, in the background, we've had all this issue with the Gijón P2, where now it has been confirmed that none of the top 100 players are actually participating in the tournament. And if I'm not mistaken, does it start next week?
Yeah, it was meant to start next week. I mean, it seems like it'll go ahead. There are rumors that they may completely cancel it from a men's draw perspective because, probably viewers and our audience, I'm sure a lot of them don't know. I didn't know before watching a podcast today. I heard Seba Nedone and Pablo Cardona talk about it on 2010, and they said, apart from the fact that it's rumored that the men's tournament may not even go ahead, the women's tournament will go ahead with all the top pairs. So 2 different situations, which is also really amazing. And it's probably reflected by the fact that the Women's Players Association is a separate entity to the Men's Players Association, or the PPA, which again, I find so strange. I mean, wouldn't they both try to work towards a better sport for both men and women? It's very odd. I mean, I don't think the setup's great. And to be honest, I may just add my little kind of grain of thought. As you said, I mean, very, very rocky start to the season. This is only Premier Padel's second season as the standalone unified tour. And a lot of players complained throughout last season about, well, some of the tournaments, the heavy schedule, the actual organization of the tournaments, amenities, etc. And now kicking off the second season with this, both the total shit show, excuse my French, with the Riyadh P1, the rain, being constant delays, and not just the tournament ending 2 days later, but just the schedule being all over the place. I mean, players didn't know when they want to play. Sometimes they had to warm up 3 separate times before actually getting to start the match. I mean, that's just exactly what you don't want for both players, for both fans as well. So starting with that, plus the whole Gijón P2 is not good, and it doesn't seem like this will be the last step or the last hurdle in Premier Padel's way. So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully they start sorting it out, because it's not great also for new kind of fans to the sport, because obviously avid fans like you and I will watch it anyways. But imagine if you kind of want to tune into a semi-final and it's like, okay, delayed by the rain, and then you start doing something else and you actually may end up missing the match because you don't know what time it's going to start at. So yeah, not great for the sport. I don't know what you thought, Gons.
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more, to be honest. It's not the start that you want. There's obviously massive friction there between the players, between Premier Padel. It seems like the players have kind of given some demands to Premier Padel, or kind of told them their concerns about, some of the things that maybe happened last year, and they want things to change, and Premier Padel doesn't seem to be moving or bulging. So this is kind of what's quite of a drastic measure, to be honest, because if the tournament does get cancelled in the end, I mean, it'll be terrible for the tournament. Well, for the tour, for the tournament itself, for Gijón. I mean, obviously for the fans as well, who, paid some tickets, and kind of a bit of a shame that it is happening as well in Spanish soil, because obviously Spain, I think, is one of the countries where paddle is a bit of a shame that it will happen there. And for example, Gijón didn't have a kind of tournament last year, so I'm sure that they were kind of very excited to see the world's best players playing. But hopefully they do come to some sort of agreement. And as you said, very strange that there's this kind of differentiation between women and men, because obviously if men kind of have given their demand or like asked for things to change, wouldn't that also be applied to women? So I don't know, it just feels like there's a bit of a kind of chaos going on there. But I just hope, for the sake of everyone, for the sake of players, for the sake of fans, that there is kind of a resolution to this, and we come they come to an agreement. But I will say as well, I think obviously we don't really know the ins and outs and kind of maybe what has been promised or what hasn't. But in a way, I don't necessarily feel so bad for the players, because at the end of the day, they were the ones kind of pushing off World Padel Tour. They were the ones that were like, yes, we're taking what Premier's got to offer. So I don't know. Like I said, we don't really know the ins and outs. We don't know what Premier Padel maybe promised, and maybe they just haven't delivered. But I just hope that, the players did make the choice to leave World Padel Tour for Premier Padel. And now it kind of feels like, oh, they're not really happy about it. But yeah, I mean, I just hope that we come to a solution soon, for the sake of everyone, and for the fans as well. Because as you said, for people that are watching, that are new, all the chaos that was around the Riyadh P1 must have, I mean, not been a good watch.
No, exactly. I mean, Sam Jones, obviously number 2 player for GB, who we interviewed a couple of weeks ago now, literally said what you just said. He said that in his eyes, maybe players are complaining a bit too much. So, I mean, the fact that top players are complaining when they've actually got favourable draws, good conditions, big prize money, potential, etc. Yeah, it's hard to give your kind of informed opinion on without being on the inside. But yeah, I very much agree with your standpoint. But yeah, maybe moving on to the fun stuff, I'd say. And obviously the tournament itself. I mean, maybe I'd like to start with the final, because it is the main event. And it was a final that we'd never watched before, which is always interesting. And that's because one of the pairs playing the final was none other than Juan Lebrón and Franco Stupaczuk. who, in my eyes, had a very impressive start to their partnership, overcoming a tough run and a tough draw in Riyadh, because they actually had to beat, well, Cardona and Ausburger, who are obviously incredibly in form, very suited to the court conditions that we saw throughout the week in Riyadh, given that it was outdoors and during the day it was quite hot. It meant that the ball was flying all over the place. And obviously that's breeding ground for big smashers. And that's something that both Cardona and Ausburger are, particularly Ausburger, obviously having one of the best smashes on tour, if not maybe even the best smash, to be honest. So, I mean, Lebron and Stupa actually managed to beat them in the semi-finals in a tight 3-set match and saving 2 match points, which obviously shows a lot of resilience. But then moving on to the final, I thought that one man was the main reason why it went the usual way, i.e. COELLO Tapia's way, and it's none other than Agustín Tapia. I mean, just going on the raw stats of winners versus unforced errors, which obviously tell us a lot about what went on. 38 winners, 15 unforced errors for the man. I mean, he clearly has taken advantage of the holidays and come back at full throttle because, I mean, my word, that's not 3 times more winners than unforced errors, but almost. Contribution score of almost 20, the highest across all players. So, yeah, I mean, I thought he was the MVP and he just looked so in form and almost felt like he'd been playing for a couple of months, and he hasn't, obviously. And he also suffered from an injury throughout the Hexagon Cup, which meant he had to pull out, etc. So very impressed by him. COELLO, obviously the king of consistency. Very good stats from him as well. I mean, 28 unforced errors. 28 winners, 15 unforced errors. So yeah, just a very low unforced error count across both players, particularly given how many risky shots they go for. And I mean, from Franco and Juan's side, I'm actually quite surprised when I looked at the raw stats, because supposedly, and according to Padel Intelligence, who obviously provide these stats, and we're very grateful of them, Stupaczuk had a substantially better match than Juan Lebrón, which didn't really feel that way. I kind of felt when I was watching it that Lebrón was almost leading the pair, and I thought that Franco was a bit, I'd say, inconsistent, had more unforced errors than expected, wasn't as, perhaps, he wasn't reading the game as well as he usually does, which is obviously one of his big strengths. And Lebrón back on the forehand side, I mean, there are a lot of points that were key points, and he went for the risky shot, he went for the smash, and it almost always pulled off. I mean, actually, when you look at the players' contribution scores on key points, Lebron had the best, which is really impressive. So great to see him back to a very, very high level in the forehand. And yeah, maybe, Gons, do you want to kind of tell me a little bit about your thoughts on Lebron specifically and how you saw him back on his preferred side of the court, probably?
No, I was really impressed with Lebron's performance. I think both in the semifinals and in the finals, he really carried the pair. I think what you mentioned around his stats maybe not looking as good as he played, I think is completely correct. I mean, it's one of those times where you look at the stats of both him and Stupa, and Stupa has better stats, but it just feels like he played a lot worse of a match than Lebron did. I think it's in my eyes, Lebron was more determined, he was more dominant, he was the one kind of constructing the point. And even in a lot of cases, he was finishing the points, right? I think when you look at maybe the winners, right, from both sides, so Lebron with 24 winners and Stupa with 27, that's not the usual balance that you see or differential between a left-sided player and a right-sided player. Normally, the left-sided player has way more of a impact offensively and generates a lot more winners than the right-sided player. So I think, to me, this kind of small difference speaks more about Lebron than it does about Stupa, in the sense that Lebron was just like really good offensively and really able to generate the points. Now, he did have a lot of unforced errors, but to be honest, I think a lot of those unforced errors will be cleaned up as the kind of season goes on. A lot of them I felt were due to conditions, which super windy. I felt like a lot of the lobs, they just went straight to the glass. Even some, I felt like Lebron in returns of serve as well, sometimes just straight to the net. But I feel like those are kind of small unforced errors that he'll probably be able to clean up. I mean, obviously, you love to get a kind of 24 winners from Lebron, but you can't have 21 unforced errors. That's something that I think he definitely needs to bring down. I remember as well when he was with Martin, this was actually a very kind of typical stat line that he would have. He would have a lot of winners with the Nenno being on the left side, but he would also have quite a bit of unforced errors. So I think that he definitely, obviously, if they do want to challenge COELLO and Tapia consistently and kind of be up there making finals consistently, he probably needs to bring that down a little bit. But like I mentioned, I think there are definitely a few of those that will be easily fixed as the kind of season goes on. But overall, really impressed with how they battled in that second set. I also felt like they tried to look for COELLO a bit more, and they were actually seemingly making Tapia a bit frustrated, because Tapia, a lot of the times, actually, when he had to kind of go to COELLO's side to hit the smash, and he wasn't very good in those moments. I felt like those were the couple of smashes where they actually caught COELLO and Tapia out, because Tapia was maybe just going a little bit slower or not getting to the ball right on time, and then he would either leave the smash for Stupa and Lebron to kind of put it por cuatro or maybe hit the glass or something. But I felt like the intention was clear, kind of target COELLO. And then, I mean, on COELLO's and Tapia's side, I mean, just incredible match. To be honest, from both of them, but as you mentioned, probably Tapia being the MVP. I mean, that one point where he blocked Lebron's por cuatro attempt, like, I don't think I've ever seen him block like that. And it was a break point as well. I mean, it's just, honestly, he does something every day on court that you just like never seen before. So really, really good performance from them. And it just overall seemed like there is no way that these guys are going to be beaten by the number one, to be honest, already in the first tournament of the season. We'll see. I just feel like Stupa needs to add a lot more than what he did, I feel, on the...
Yeah, I mean, I feel exactly the same way. But when you look at the stats, they say that Stupa had a better match with Lebrón. I know sometimes stats can be a bit misleading. Maybe this is the case. It'd be great to hear our kind of fans and viewers' thoughts. But yeah, I mean, I'd say maybe one final point on the final is that I always had the feeling that COELLO and Tapia were in control. Even when they lost the second set, right? They were love 30 down. Tapia goes for a backhand bajada, which he absolutely steams. They could have gone 3 set points down, wins that point, and then on 30-all, he goes for a smash from behind the line, misses it, gets found out, and then COELLO goes for the same on the set point and gets found out. And even when they lose the second set, playing confidently and going for the shots, they go into the third set saying, we're going to do it, and actually end up winning the match relatively comfortably. I mean, they broke Stupa and Lebron straight away. So even though it was a very even affair, even though it was great, I mean, I think it was a great performance from Lebron and Stupa's side as a first tournament, obviously making the final, beating Cardona and Ausburger, who are obviously kind of the big surprise of the tournament. They knocked out Chingalan in the quarterfinals after dominating that match, I'd say. I think it's very positive signs from both Stupa and Lebron. And I'm sure time will help them accommodate and maybe solve a couple of kind of doubts when the ball goes going kind of high down the middle, where Lebron was sometimes going into the middle and playing a average shot where normally he should try and trust Stupa to come in as the backhand player and go for an aggressive biboda or even a smash. So I think once they solve those things out, they are going to increase their level a lot. But yeah, it just almost felt like COELLO and Tapia were playing as they wanted to play, playing freely and not caring whether they were going to make a mistake or not on a specific point, because they knew that at the end of the day, when it really mattered, they were going to deliver.
Yeah, the thing is as well is, and I thought it was super funny, is Stupa and Lebrón end the second set super excited, like on a high. They're on the bench, like so excited. And then they're like saying to each other, we haven't done anything. Like, we need to keep calm and we need to play like we've done the second set, constructing the point like really well, all of that. And then literally in the first game of the third set, 2 smashes from behind the line from Lebrón and Stupa, which is obviously something that you do when you're super excited and when you feel you're on top of the world. They both get found out, and all of a sudden you're love 30 down against COELLO and Tapia. It's just those small margins that, even though they said like they would control their emotions, they haven't done anything, they actually weren't able to do so. And when you're playing COELLO and Tapia, you just can't leave those small like kind of margin of errors. You can't just be love 30 down, because they'll take advantage.
Totally agree. Yeah. You actually emphasized that point offline after the match yesterday, obviously. And yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it was amazing how they literally came off the bench and went for 2 smashes, messed up, And then obviously Tapia produced that unbelievable block and they managed the break straight away. It just must be so hard and so frustrating to play against COELLO and Tapia because you have to take so many risks to be in a position to win that match, because you can't play a short lob, you can't play an average ground stroke, you can't play an average volley. Everything has to be at 80, 90+%. But then again, if you take too many risks, you're going to get found out.
Right.
So yeah, very, very fine margins. Well, I think that just reflects the fact that COELLO and Tapia right now are a level above everyone else, even Chingalan.
Yeah, no doubt.
And it probably leads on to probably the other main topic that I wanted to talk about. Obviously, we've spoken a little bit about Cardona and Ausburger, and we will do again in a second, because I thought that the big surprise of the tournament was Chingalan going out in the quarterfinals, something that had only happened once since their union, which was obviously in the last tournament of the season, right? In the Master Finals, where they lost in the first round, which was really quarterfinals against Momo and Edu. But yeah, I mean, first time beyond that since they joined up early on throughout last season. And I mean, I do think that the court and the conditions played a big part. Obviously, they don't favour Chingoto. A fast court does not favour Chingoto. However, I actually felt that at that time of the day where they ended up playing the match, it wasn't actually that hot. It wasn't an ultra fast court. It was a medium towards fast court. So I wouldn't say that it was an unplayable court for Chingoto. But funnily enough, something else that I heard when I was listening to Nenno and Cardona and their podcast today, Cardona said actually kind of slightly slower courts, not slow courts, but middle to fast courts are better for us than very fast courts, because on fast courts, everyone can smash. Whereas on the middle/fast courts, when you're good at smashing, you can smash anyway, but other players can't do that. And I think that helped them even more. But yeah, I mean, maybe going into the match, I thought Ausburger in particular just led that the pair through his smash. I mean, every single lob that they played to Ausburger, he seemed to deliver. And I did feel that particularly Chingoto played too many lobs, taking into account that he was playing who he was playing. If you have to take more risks by playing kind of more ground strokes and fewer lobs, it's better to do that against these two, smashing machines. But I do understand him in a way. I mean, they're so big and they cover so much of the net. They almost feels like you have to play the lob because there's no spaces to play when you play a ground stroke. But then if you play a lob, you get found out. So yeah, I mean, they lost in 3 sets. It was a very tight affair. But I did feel that Chingalan brought the sensations that we were seeing towards the end of last season. Not that much confidence in them individually and as a pair. I saw Alan very frustrated, making mistakes during key points and key moments, which was obviously a big problem in Padel and not something that he's used to given the last year and a half where he's been one of the best players in the world, if not the best for a lot of months. So yeah, Gods, what were your thoughts on that match?
Yeah, so I mean, on Galan and Chingoto specifically, I just felt like you said, they're just carrying that same energy and same kind of lack of momentum, I guess, from last season. I think from being the first tournament, obviously stepping into a quarterfinals, I thought that we would kind of see we would see some variety, something different about them that maybe that had worked during the preseason. But to be honest, nothing seemed to change. And just very early on, you saw Galan making kind of uncharacteristic errors, like just volleys straight to the glass that you never see him. And to be honest, I remember one in particular, he did just a very blatant unforced error right at the beginning of the match. I'm not sure, like in the first set. And when I saw that, and then I saw his reaction after that, I was like, oh, damn. I was like, it's going to be one of those games, one of those days. Yeah, like he's literally, it seems like this was, it seems like we're back in December, November when he was kind of carrying that negative energy and he was getting frustrated really easily and making like really just weird unforced errors, like very blatant unforced errors. So that's the thing that really stuck with me. And it's kind of one of those where if that's the dynamic that's going on at the moment at the partnership and how he's feeling, then it's really hard to get out of that once you're in kind of that sort of dynamic. So I just wonder, I'm really scared now about Chingalan, to be honest, because I think that these months are key. I think we've spoken about it before, right? There's a significant points gap with COELLO and Tapia. And if, 3 tournaments down, you haven't even reached a final or something like that, then, I mean, the season for the number one is basically over. So really a lot of alarm bells on for Chingalan. I think Chingoto as well. It didn't really necessarily see anything kind of worked on. Even I thought that maybe he would start smacking a lot more, maybe something that he's worked on the preseason. But at least on this match, it didn't seem like he was taking any smashes really. I think he only completed 1 out of 2 smashes. If your court is at least kind of somewhat fast, at least I would hope that he would attempt a little bit more. And yeah, he didn't. So I'm just not sure if kind of he's maybe worked on that during the preseason and all. So that's a bit worrying. And then on Cardona and Asburger's side, I mean, what a pair. Could be really interesting. It just, and I think we spoke about this offline, but they feel like the kind of junior COELLO and Tapia, basically. They're going for that formula, right? 2 really big bodies, heavy smackers, great offensively. Obviously, they don't have the skills or the experience that COELLO and Tapia do, but it just feels like they're trying to replicate that model. And I was really surprised by how good in sync they were. Now, there's definitely moments that they're kind of going, one stepping on one side of the court and the other stepping on the other side, and they just seem a mess. But I actually would have expected it to be so much worse, because when you think about it, both Ausburger and Cardona have basically always been the player that's kind of generating the winners and taking all the risks. So the fact that they actually didn't, they did some of the COELLO and Tapia, Cardona coming down, Ausburger going all the way to Cardona's side to smash, and they did some of them really well. There's obviously still things that they can improve in kind of those middle lobs, but I thought overall I saw them quite a lot better than I would have expected them to be, at least at this stage. And even in the semifinals, I mean, they could have really, they were so close to winning that. I mean, they had 2 match points, right? So overall, great performance by them. Obviously, I do think that these conditions are the ones that suit them, as you just mentioned. And we'll see, because maybe the next couple of tournaments also have similar conditions. Obviously, now maybe Gijón, they don't play or it doesn't go ahead, but Cancun, which I think is the next one, probably would have, very good weather, and it could be outdoor as well. So maybe it will be a similar tournament from them. So I feel like, I mean, for the players, or for the pairs at the top, this is going to be an interesting pair to face.
No, definitely. I mean, I'm very glad that I didn't say they were going to be the first pair out the top 10 to split, because I put them up there. And I think I ended up going with Paquito and Berga, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you
so
did.
I'm very happy that I went against my kind of gut feeling. I mean, maybe one final kind of idea to drop off is seeing the current conditions that most tournaments involve, the fact that courts are either fast or very fast, a lot of outdoors, the heat. Does that mean that, pairs that can really challenge COELLO and Tapia have to be that same model, i.e. 2 beasts that contribute as much from an attacking perspective as they do from a defensive perspective? I mean, what I'm saying is, can Chingoto really reach the number 1 spot given his characteristics, or does he have to change his game style completely? And as you said, add a smash that at least contributes 40% to the winning kind of winners of the pair, rather than 20% in the quarterfinal, or 25%. I don't know.
No, I mean, it certainly seems like right now that's not possible. And I'm not sure, because we have seen Chingoto and Galan both at their peaks. And sure, at their peaks, they were able to consistently battle COELLO and Tapia, but that didn't last a whole season, right? I mean, the level that they were playing at was incredible, and I'm not sure, we've discussed it many times, I don't think that was sustainable for across a whole season. So it does feel like at the moment, someone like Chingoto, even pairing up with someone like Alan, who can generate winners super easily and who's very much a player of the, similar type to COELLO and Tapia, even pairing with someone like him doesn't feel like it is enough right now.
I agree. But It'd be great to hear our, obviously, viewers and fans' thoughts, because I think it's a question that will linger over the next few weeks, given how much pressure Chingalan will have, because they challenged for the number 1 spot last season and they're going to be expecting to challenge for it again. And if they continue to, well, not make it past the quarterfinals or not win tournaments in the next few weeks, I think alarm bells are definitely on.
Yeah, 100%. And maybe Hugo, before we end it on a note, I actually wanted to ask you a really quick thing, because actually one of our kind of fans left a comment. And I actually, when I read it, I was like, wow, this is actually such a good question. Maybe after this tournament, it gives it even more clarity to the answer. But basically, it was asked. So we were asked, if I'm not mistaken, let me check.
I think it's the top 3 players. Rank these players, and it's Tapia, Coello, and Galan, right? In terms of
exactly
level.
Yeah, so with the top 3, because I think we all know who the top 3, everyone's like very clear on the top 3, but if you were to rank them, who, and this was actually asked by Kevin Villa, so thanks a lot for the comment and for the question.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. Are we going right now, or are we going what I really think of the players? I mean, I think right now, Tapia 1, Coello 2, Galan 3. If we're going on, all of them at their peak, I'd potentially switch Galan and Coello and put Galan as 2 and Coello as 3.
Yeah, I think for me, it would be kind of taking all into account even now, but just also what I think about them as players. I think it's Tapia, Galan, and Coello for me. So there you go. Please
Kevin,
also
share your thoughts, please.
exactly. Please do leave your comments as well. But anyway, Hugo, great episode. Loved talking to you or talking about paddle with you as always. And yeah, I hope you win. Hope you win this.
Yeah, mate, I'll miss you on court, but hopefully I will. I'll tell you in a couple of hours. Cheers, guys.
Perfect.
Have a great week.
Bye.